We might want to approach today's feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe as an invitation to let go. That is, to put aside any inclination to look at it cerebrally and instead embrace it with our imaginations and our hearts. It's celebrated in many countries, including our own, with processions, dancings, special gatherings inside and out of church. And here at Holy Trinity, last Saturday, with a Mass to honor our migrants sponsored by our church, as well as all migrants, with one of our own parishioners preaching. As I reflect, I am reminded of an experience I had a few years ago at the start of a bird watching trip along the Magdalena Valley in Colombia. A friend and I arrived early, and on Sunday morning, noting there was a church nearby with, amazingly, Mass times listed every hour or so, I prevailed on her to go there with me. We walked down a quiet street for 3 blocks, turned the corner, and at the plaza in front of a massive church, really a minor basilica, were perhaps 20 or so massive tour buses. We mounted the steps to enter and found not even standing room. It was packed with families, children, men holding toddlers on their shoulders, hundreds of people packed in on a warm, moist day without any air conditioning besides. We arrived between Masses while prayers were being offered for specific groups of people. The priest calling out from up front, "Now hold up your children. Let us all raise our hands to bless them." And again, "Now look around and raise your hands over all students." Everybody turned to do that. And once these invocations ended, the large group exited by side doors while another crowd entered from the back. Apparently this happens every Sunday, drawing people from afar. But why there? Because in the 16th century, a young maiden was washing clothes in the nearby stream when a suitor attempted to defile her. She rejected him, preferring to die rather than to accede. He left and then appeared to her near the stream, the Virgin Mary, in honor of whom was built this church. Now, this is a place scarcely mentioned in our guidebook, and as far as I could see, we were the only non-locals. A place deeply personal and sacred to the surrounding towns and villages, and for me, leaving a lasting sense of palpable faith and hope, placed by local people in God and Mary, honored through this event at this spot. Today's feast, unlike what I described, is well known, of major import, not only in our neighboring Mexico, but also here in the United States. Most of us know its history. In brief, a young Juan Diego, Christian Indian, was passing a hill at Tepeyac near Mexico City in 1531 when a young Indian maiden, speaking in his native Nahuatl, told him to tell the bishop a church was needed to be built on that site to honor Mary. Given the reluctance of the bishop, Juan Diego was sent again with the same request, this time opening his cloak, from which fell bountiful roses and the permanent image of the lady on the cloak. That image is still displayed at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City, a site visited by millions on pilgrimage, especially today. What might this have to do with us in our own context? Well, for one, we might seek to gain an appreciation for the power of faith, and especially dedication to Mary, the Mother of God, to aid us in our own need to erase boundaries between and among us. In a similar manner to the way this Guadalupe apparition helped Mexico in the 16th century to take steps toward fusing Spanish and indigenous races and cultures in order to form a national identity. But perhaps more importantly, this day represents yet another reminder of God's gift to us in Mary, a source of comfort in the challenges we face, both globally and in our own country and lives, to whom we are invited to pray for our needs, especially for an increase in compassion and trust in the Lord, enough that we too might be able to proclaim the greatness of the Lord, as we hear in the Magnificat. And finally, we might pray today for indigenous peoples, migrants, and the poor. But let's also find, if we can, some good music to celebrate the day in honor of our neighbor Mexico and all those who value this important feast day, putting aside any attempt to intellectualize this feast and instead letting go to where grace and the Spirit may lead us.